This poem is about the National Day of Prayer. And, before I write a series, and almost all of mine have been 7 poems, and I usually come up with 7 things that I want to talk about, and then I sit down and begin to write. And I got to this last one, and God said no to what I had planned to do. And he led me to this. And I want to warn you, it's a little bit strong to pastors and people, but I think it's what God wanted people to hear. There's a National Day of Prayer, September 20th. And I'm writing this before the Day of Prayer. So I don't know the outcome of the day, but I'm concerned about who will be there. I understand that most Christians cannot attend, but I'm troubled about the lack of concern. About the lack of interest from our churches. And I think there's something here for us to learn. Are pastors unaware of what's going on? Or have they become accepting of our nation's sin and withdrawn into their local congregations and telling their church how to materially win? There's a time to preach prosperity, because God's nature is to surely bless. But prosperity cannot forgive sin. And even our churches are in a big mess. We need to preach the good news of Jesus. But we also must acknowledge our country's sin of abortion, homosexuality, and evil political platforms, and preach the whole gospel again. And you pastors who are afraid to speak out about politics and point out the platforms that are against God's truth because you're afraid of offending your money people, your sin is costing us our youth. And God's going to judge you the harshest. You can try to justify it if you can. But God will hold you accountable. It's time to take a stand, because our judgment has already begun. But the worst is yet to come. And it's time for fasting and prayer and repentance. Back to God, don't walk, but run. I want to share some closing thoughts with you. In Judges chapter 2, and you may want to go and read it, God reminds the children of Israel that he gave them the land of Canaan. See, just like I believe God gave us America. But God had told his people not to make a covenant with the people of Canaan. In other words, don't engage in the things that they are doing. Don't get involved with their stuff. With the sexual immorality and prosperity and all those things. In other words, don't be like the world. And God also said to tear down their altars. In other words, put a stop to the evil things that they are doing. Because, their sin affects everybody. And God knows that the things they were doing would defile the land. And then God went on to say, but you have not obeyed my voice. What is this you've done? God said they will become thorns in your side, and their gods will become a snare to you. Sound familiar? It's exactly where we are today. But I want to give you some hope. I heard several times today of 2 Chronicles 7:14. Many of you know it. But there's some ifs in here. He says, if my people. He wasn't talking about the world. He's talking about his people. He said, if my people are called by my name, humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven, I will forgive their sin and heal their land. So we've got hope, folks, but we've got to stay on our knees. Till next time, God bless.